this edition of the Mike On Podcast.
The position of Nigeria's president is without doubt a highly contested one. One will not be surprised at the intensity and vested interest shown during and after the election of a president for the most populous black nation in the world. Yes, the 2023 presidential election is over, but the contenders are still on with the fight. They are banking on the strength of their petitions, hoping the courts will interpret and give meanings to all the gray areas. It's a democracy, and the actions of those who have decided to take their prayers to court is within the dictates of the law. But not everyone will travel same path. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka's fastest tag, Chimamanda Adichie's open letter to the US government, Bola Tinubu making the Time magazine's 100 influential persons list, and the outpour of emotions that followed all of these are a few of the developing twists and turns in the aftermath of the 2023 elections. In our efforts to continue to deepen democratic ideals, we continue our conversations centered on the outcome of the 2023 presidential election. Join Sean Kimbaloye on the Mike On Podcast as he engages a powerful list of panelists across parties and interests.
The 60% of Us series.
Preparations are in motion for May 29 inauguration. This piece of information may mean something different to all various camps because there is no denying the fact that there are ill feelings and divided opinions on the outcome of the 2023 elections. Hello and welcome to the Mike On Podcast. I'm Sean Kimbaloye. My every weekday political show, Politics Today and Sunday Politics on Channels Television, fosters the conversation on political issues and policy formulation. This podcast is yet another opportunity for every Nigerian to have a say in Nigeria's socio-political issues. So the mic is on and can be passed to you at any time. So get into the conversation, everyone. Some Nigerians believe the 2023 election is the most dramatic so far in the nation's history, and the arguments are premised on the pre-election issues, election day irregularities, court cases hanging over the legitimacy of the poll, the intra-party crisis, accusations of rigging, the open letters, opinions from thought leaders. They have also been met with strong reactions. For context, the war of words is a safer option, but for how long? Human Rights Watch says that the 2011 presidential election led to communal violence in northern Nigeria, which left more than 800 people dead. The victims were killed in 3 days of rioting in 12 northern states. To continue to deepen democratic ideals and also address our differences, my guests tonight are from different political divide and interests. And so you are also, you have your own ideals and your own interests, and wherever your leanings are, let's just listen in and let's come together as a people, as Nigerians, and let's get the conversation started. The mic is on, like I said, but the good thing is we are all committed to a united Nigeria. So let me allow you to meet my guests tonight and where we will be taking the conversation from. Of course, Reno Omokri is going to be with us. He is a former presidential aide. Reno Omokri is also a writer, an author, and a social commentator. Also, we'll be having a human rights lawyer, Mr. Enibe Efyong, who will also be joining us virtually. But right here with me in the studio, I have Mr. Tosin Adeyanju, who is one of the coordinators of the different support groups of the Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And we have FS Yusuf. He's a member of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you so much, FS Yusuf, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess we should get the conversation started. I'm wondering, Tosin, how did we get here? Things have become so intense that the verbal brickbats that I saw, I'm not sure I've seen it in a long time. Why? Why is this happening really?
No, I think the calm is coming back to the country. There is celebration mode across the country with what we've witnessed for the past 20 days. That some people don't accept their loss in any elections. They must file cases at the courts, waste people's time, spend so much money in the judicial or the tribunals to get nothing out of it. So basically, it's always expected for politicians in Nigeria to cry foul in every election. That has been the tradition in this country. And it will not change tomorrow. It will be a continuum. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't beat a baby and expect him or her not to cry. So for us, what is happening is deepening democratic space. It's expected in every elections. And I think the calm is returning back to the country. People are preparing for inauguration. And the court proceeding has started. Those that have genuine cases should approach the tribunal, which they've done. So we should wait for the outcome of litigations. So I believe that the country belongs to all of us. We must uphold this democracy. We must protect this democracy. People labored for this democracy. People died for this democracy. We don't want a repeat of June 12. We don't want interim governments in this country because a lot is at stake. And the world is watching us.
Yusuf, do you feel the same way Tosin is feeling?
No, entirely different. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank you for bringing me up here. I always look forward to opportunities to speak about issues that are very critical to our everyday lives. He talked about celebration in the airwaves, but I think that is far different from the reality we have today. Nigerians
so people
are
not celebrating?
No. But I want to talk about celebration. Let's talk about how the atmosphere were when President Buhari won his election in 2015. Then I was in Zaria. You could see that the street was like a cinema. Celebration all over. People were so happy because they had that belief that this is a free and fair election. They had that belief that they came out to vote and their votes were counted. They had that belief that the person they voted for to be their president was given the mandate. But what we're seeing today is a complete deviance from the 2015 situation and a complete deviance from what my brother here just said.
So, I mean, he said that there is celebration himself, and I've been seeing pictures of you and your friends camping at the Unity Fountain in the city center in Abuja. And you said you're going to do this until 29th of May.
For the past 20 days, they've been counting down at Unity Fountain. People from different walks of lives come there from 8 a.m. till about 10, 11, 12 p.m., midnight sometimes. As we are speaking here, if you go to Unity Fountain, people are dancing, people are breaking there's iftar going on, people are eating and drinking and celebrating.
Why? Why are they using Unity Fountain?
No, Unity Fountain is a symbol for unity of this country. Asiwaju represents unity. And for Abuja is the center of the country. All over across the country.
You guys were overwhelmed because of the protest?
No, we're not overwhelmed. We're not overwhelmed about it. You can see everything has died down since people started converging at the Unity Fountain to celebrate Asiwaju's victory.
It was a counter protest.
It was never a counter. People of like minds walked into Unity Fountain and feels that they should begin a countdown for the inauguration that's happening on May 29th. And the countdown has begun. And today is the 20th they've been at Unity Fountain. And different people, civil servants, ordinary Nigerians, market women, sport lovers, entertainers, Nollywood artists, everybody comes there. The videos have been flying around. It has been trending on Twitter. Everything is
Tosin is saying something totally different.
So I feel
he's describing a festive atmosphere, a celebratory atmosphere, but it doesn't look like that is what you are experiencing.
I feel that if there is a generic happiness from the hearts of Nigerians, that occasion don't have to be regimental. You don't have to gather people in a place and get them to come there every day to show that they are happy. happiness is something that's inherent. Happiness is something that comes from within. And if people are happy in their own state, they do that in their own locality. They do that in their own way. You don't have to like, get them to come down to a particular location to stay there and like, and display that, we are happy with the outcome of the electoral system. I see that I see that as grandstanding. It's just grandstanding to me. I don't think that is really from the hearts of the people. And talking about occupying the Unity Fountain for next 20 days or how many days it mentioned, I remember when Labour Party supporters wanted to, host a protest there, as in a gathering there. I recall that they got some pushbacks. But what I was seeing from the other guys, I think there's a video or there's a report that they got some pushback trying to use the Unity Fountain for a gathering.
But there was a protest that started.
Yes.
And those guys said they were going to be protesting until there was a change, because they said that they don't agree with the outcome of the results.
Yeah, so they've taken it from the Unity Fountain. Right now, they are hitting the streets. They go from.
I see.
Yes,
are they still on the street?
Yes, they're still on the street.
All right. Let me go to Rano Amokri, who is a former presidential aide, who joins us virtually. I was reading one article you wrote where you say an action call to save democracy in Nigeria. Rano had told me that he needed to step out somewhere, so he needed to quickly give his intervention before he goes. But Rano, what prompted you, and let me get your view about the outcome of the election and the kind of reactions that we've seen in the past few days. We've seen open letter from Chimamanda Adichie. We've seen reaction from Professor Wole Soyinka. We've seen reactions, and the petitions are also out there. Give me your view on what has happened since the conclusion of the presidential election.
Well, if I give my view, it's only going to add to the noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on the facts. Now, we've had elections on February 25, 2023, and the case is now at the Presidential Election Petition Court. Whatever the outcome of the court and the Supreme Court, I'm going to accept it. And I hope that my party will also accept it. I think that there were fundamental errors in the election. Now, let's look at the facts. Section 47, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act 2022 says that if there are inabilities to register people using electronic means, then the election in that polling unit should be cancelled and rescheduled. Now, if you look at the results from the election, about 14,000 polling units had issues with biomodal voters accreditation system, that's the BVAS. And so the voters weren't accredited with the machines, with the, PVC machines. And by law, and this is the law that was passed under the All Progressive Congress, those elections should have been cancelled in those polling units and then rescheduled. So if you're talking about 14,000 polling units, that's almost 8% of the polling units in Nigeria. And if you look at the margin of victory that Bola Tinubu had, it's not a very wide margin of victory. Even with the rigging and even with the, problems that we had, he had about 8 million votes, and the runner-up had about 6.9 million votes. And then we had the third coming with about 6.1 million votes. So the issue of those polling units where there was no accreditation, it's very serious, because it's found that in those polling units, there were serious issues of overvoting. And this is not just my take, this is coming from INEC, because you compare the votes that they had, you compare the amount of registered voters, it's obvious that there was overvoting. So those are the issues that the Presidential Election Petition Court have to look into. Now, the challenge that someone like me is having with the court is the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Now, with the Chief Justice of Nigeria, what we had with on November 25, 2023, the Chief Justice of Nigeria was in Rivers State, and he made comments on video, which seemed to, praise the All Progressive Congress. And this is a man who has set up the Pepsi. This is a man who is going to be sitting at the head of the case when it goes to the Supreme Court. How impartial can he be? So those are the issues for me. Now, you come to other issues. You talk about Chimamanda's letter. Chimamanda's letter on the surface is okay. My only issue with Chimamanda's letter is that Chimamanda was not writing as a Nigerian. She was writing as a supporter of Peter Obi. Now, if you look at what I've just talked about now, I haven't mentioned my party. I'm not speaking, in favor of my party. I'm speaking in favor of democracy. And that's what we need right now. And that's why you can, when I say appreciate someone like Professor Wole Soyinka. Professor Wole Soyinka is not speaking in favor of any party, he's speaking in favor of democracy. And that is what was missing in Chimamanda's letter. Now, going further, the wider issues, you've had an election, it's produced a disputed winner. Where is Bola Tinubu? Nobody knows where he is. And he should be right now in the country trying to bring people together, if at all he's interested in governing. But he's not, he's nowhere to be found. And this idea that it's only in Nigeria that people go to court after an election is not true. I mean, you see that in the United States. You saw that in 2000, you saw that with Bush and Gore. They went to the court, and the whole election came down to the Supreme Court. And all the judges that were appointed by Democratic governments voted in favor of Al Gore, and all the judges that were appointed by Republican governments voted in favor of George W. Bush. And with a 5-4, just very slim, it just only won, just one justice. And that's how Bush emerged as president. And then you also saw what happened January 6th, after the election in America, the storming of the US Capitol. So it's not an issue that is limited to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, in Nigeria, what we've seen over the years is that election petition cases keep reducing. At least they reduced in 2011 from 2007. They reduced seriously in 2015 from 2011, and then they also reduced, in 2019. So we're making progress. This whole idea of people trying to use hyperbole to say, "Oh, Nigeria is this Nigeria." No, we are making progress. This is a democratic journey, and even though I'm a member of the People's Democratic Party.
Yeah, let me quickly jump in here. I'd like to ask you two short questions. Do you think that 2023 election was better than 2019 and 2015?
Now, I'm going to answer that question very honestly, and I know I'm going to upset a lot of people. 2023 election was not perfect, but it was actually better than previous elections that we've had. Because one reason why we can say it's better is that look at the results of the elections. Look at the votes. I mean, all those numbers that we used to have. Look at a state like Rivers State. Rivers State used to generate about 1 million votes. Where are those votes? Obviously, those were, will I say, padded votes. You have padded budget. Those were padded votes. Look at Kanu with all of their millions and millions of voters. How many votes did Kanu have? So I think the election was better in the sense that it's been able to weed out a lot of the shenanigans that all parties, and this is not just a matter of the APC, all parties engaged in, whereby, maybe underage voting and then double voting. As long as you are able to use the BVAS machines, then you are able to weed out the problem of overvoting. The only issue that we have with this election, why I believe that parties are in court, is because of those 14,000 polling units where BVAS was not used. Now, if the INEC can improve on that in 2027, whereby they have a backup that BVAS or maybe any kind of new technology that they're going to use will be used to accreditate voters, then we're going to see elections in Nigeria being very, very clean. But I know this is not what a lot of people, especially from my party, want to hear. This election was not perfect. I don't think that Bola Tinubu won this election cleanly, but it's still an improvement on 2019. If you take the figures, if you look at the figures of 2019, you look at the votes that Muhammadu Buhari had. I think he had about 15 million votes. If you look at the votes that Waziri Atiku had, I think he had about 11.8 million votes. I mean, you don't see those kinds of figures in 2023. And that's to show you that we've been able to weed out a lot of the shenanigans that happen.
Another quick one will be, You said you don't think that Bola Tinubu won the election cleanly. Who do you think won the election in your own view?
Well, it's very hard to say. It's very, very hard to say. That's why I'm insisting that I don't want to give my own view. I don't want to give my own opinion. Let's just follow what the law says. And that's why we have the law. The law is a lighthouse that guides a ship to land on a dark and very, very stormy day. Now, what does the law say? And you can actually Google it right now, as we're talking. Go to the Electoral Act, Section 47, Sub 3. It says that where voters come to the polling units and then the machines for accrediting them are not working, then the elections is going to be cancelled and rescheduled for another day. That was not done by INEC in 14,000 polling units. And with an election where you have the victor not winning by a lot, I mean, the number of votes in those 14,000 polling units, if you take the margin of victory between the second runner-up, that is Waziri Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu, those 14,000 polling units, they have more votes than the margin of victory. So that's why we're saying, look, I don't know who won. What we are saying is just follow the law, cancel the election in those 14,000 polling units and order a rerun in those polling units, not the whole election. I'm not saying that you have a rerun in all the 178,000 polling units in Nigeria. No, just those 14,000 polling units where you had manual accreditation.
So, yeah, so this is one of the prayers of the Atiku and the PDP in their petition. They say that the 1,810,206 votes was less than the number of permanent voter cards collected in the polling units where elections were cancelled and did not hold across the country. So you're speaking to the petition of your party to the election petition, isn't it?
No, not quite. Not quite. You see, the language that my party is using is different from my own language. When you invited me to this program, on my own, I think I wanted it to be a matter of honor to speak for democracy, not to speak for my party. And that's why I'm careful choosing my language. My own situation is quite different from my party because in those 14,000 polling units, and I'm going to be honest with you, probably my party is not going to like me saying this. All parties, including the Labour Party, the People's Democratic Party, and the APC, benefited from overvoting in those 14,000 polling units. So what I'm saying is that those 14,000 polling units are not credible. The results from the elections in those 14,000 polling units are not credible. Follow the law. Don't follow what Rena Mokri says. Don't follow what Waziri Atiku Abubakar and the People's Democratic Party petition is saying. Don't follow what Peter Obi and the Labour Party petition is saying. Just follow the law. The law is very clear. It's unambiguous.
Yeah. So let me take you up on one of the things that you said earlier. You mentioned it briefly about what Chimamanda said. Are you inferring that Chimamanda was partisan in our submission? And Chimamanda basically, in summary, says that she believes that a new sense of trust was breached by the 2023 presidential election due to the non-compliance with the new electoral law. Hence, congratulating Bola Tinubu tarnishes the very democratic reputation that America prides itself in. Those are some of the summary of what you can deduce from Chimamanda's open letter. So what's your take on Chimamanda's open letter?
Well, Chimamanda said other things in her letter. If you look at the letter, she also talked about violence and voter suppression against people who were supporting a particular candidate and a particular party. But Chimamanda is not accurate. If you look at the election, a lot of people, it's just like the song by Tupac, All Eyes on Me. It's a case of all eyes on Lagos. A lot of Labour Party supporters, they're talking about Lagos, violence in Lagos. Yes, there was episodic violence in Lagos. It wasn't widespread. It was episodic violence. In the southeast of Nigeria, there was actually systemic violence against people that were voting against the Labour Party. And we have the videos. The videos are all over the place. In Imo State, you had 3 people dying in Imo State. None of them were from the Labour Party. In the Southeast, in all the states of the Southeast, you had at least one person, except one state, dying. You didn't have all of that in Lagos or in the Southwest. And Chimamanda's letter was just focused on the things that she felt happened to supporters of a particular candidate. So that's what I'm saying. And again, one other thing in Chimamanda's letter, I mean, it's quite unfortunate, but Chimamanda was not factually accurate. What she said in her letter is that the Electoral Act provides that INEC must transmit results electronically. Now, that's not accurate. You know, I mean, I've got a master's in law. I don't know what degree Chimamanda has, but if you read the Electoral Act, there is no mandate on INEC to transmit results electronically. The only mandate on INEC is that they have to electronically accreditate voters.
Let me get here because I'm actually trying to engage you quickly because of your other engagement before I come back to the other speakers on the podcast. You said something about Bola Tinubu, and you were asking question that where is he? I'm very sure that Tosin might have an idea of where Bola Tinubu is at the moment, but the Time magazine named Bola Tinubu as one of the 100 most influential people. That generated a lot of controversy. What do you make of that recognition?
It is silly for anybody to quarrel with that. Bola Tinubu, even without winning this election, I don't support Bola Tinubu. I don't support him at all. And the reason why I've said it publicly, I believe that his links with a drug cartel, a heroin drug cartel, if for someone like me, with the kind of principles I have, I cannot touch him with a long pole. However, Bola Tinubu is a brilliant political strategist. And even without winning this election, I think that he already was among one of the 100 most influential people on planet Earth. Certainly in Nigeria, he was more influential than the president, or rather, he's more influential than the president. If you look at the governance structure in Nigeria, I mean, look at the people. He appointed the vice president. He appointed the secretary to the government of the
He nominated them.
Well, I mean, yeah, he nominated them.
Appointments and nomination, yeah. He could suggest them, just like governors also suggest ministers to the president for appointment.
Yeah. Well, okay, let me put it this way. If Bola Tinubu had not supported the president in 2015, the president would not have won the election. If you look at his voting figures, he's always had a captive audience of 12 million. It hasn't changed prior to 2015. It was Bola Tinubu's input that made him win the election and defeat my boss. And it was Bola Tinubu that nominated, Osibanjo. Bola Tinubu that also appointed the then former secretary to the government of the federation and the present one by their own admission. So that's the present one, the incumbent boss Mustafa, and then the previous one, Babachi Lawal. And then Bola Tinubu had a serious input in nominating ministers that got appointed by the president. So already he's a very, very influential person. He was called the national leader of his party. Now, when I say these things, because I don't think that Nigerians are very, very politically mature. Nigerians want a situation whereby if you are in the PDP, you say only good things about the PDP, and then you say bad things about everybody else, including people that are in the APC and the Labour Party, and that if you, as a member of the PDP, say one good thing about Bola Tinubu, then it means that you are about to jump. Now, I became aligned with the People's Democratic Party in President Obasanjo's house in 1998. This is 25 years later. I have not left the PDP to join another political party because I believe in the politics of ideology. And in Nigeria, the PDP captures my ideology. I will never leave the PDP. If I'm going to leave the PDP, then I will resign from politics. But it is silly for anybody to quarrel with Bola Tinubu being included among the 100 most influential people in the world.
But there were a lot of controversies. There are a lot of people who criticized it. And I'm very sure that you saw those criticism and those debates on whether or not the article written by, in fact, they are taking up the writer that works with the Time magazine about the view on the description and the analysis of the outcome of the election and the conduct of the election.
This is a challenge that we have with Peter Obi. Now, if you look at Peter Obi, I once promoted Peter Obi when he was in my party. Myself and former President Jonathan, and you can carry this is going to be big news. I discussed it with former President Jonathan before coming on your program. Waziri Atiku Abubakar in 2019 told me, Reno, give me 3 names that I can nominate as my vice president. And I called former President Jonathan, and former President Jonathan told me, put the name of Peter Obi number 1, number 2, number 3. And I told him, I said, look, it's going to be very rude of me to do that because the man asked me to give him names. So he told me, okay, just find other names to pad, but you put Peter Obi's name. And that's how Peter Obi became the running mate to Waziri Atiku Abubakar. Take this story anywhere.
So you were instrumental to Peter Obi being the running mate of Atiku Abubakar. Go ahead, please.
Take this story anywhere. Waziri Atiku Abubakar will back me publicly. President Jonathan will back me publicly. However, when he left our party, I made up my mind not to go against Peter Obi. But then his supporters began to attack me. You know, they leaked my address online. They said they gave death threats to my daughter. My daughter was 1 year old at that time. They came to my house. The Metropolitan Police had to give me security. So it is characteristics of obedience, members or supporters of Peter Obi. So when you're talking about the people who are attacking Astra Ravjapani, that's the lady who actually wrote the piece on Bola Tinubu, don't say Nigerians. That is wrong. It is obedience. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can actually go to her Twitter timeline and see it. These people are obedient. Nigerians are not the ones doing it. So let's be specific.
Are the obedience not Nigerians?
Yeah, no, they're Nigerians. But when you say Nigerians, you are actually bringing just the country into disrepute. You really have to pinpoint it and be very specific. For example, in the United States, you've got far right wing people. When they're talking about them, they don't just say Americans, they say far right, so that you know that this is not representative of American culture. This is a subculture within America.
Okay. Before I allow you go, quickly, if you...
Am I under arrest?
No. I mean, before I allow you, because I had a sense that you needed to attend to something quickly so that we can come back to the other guests. So, part of the topic is the road and the path untraveled. What is your thinking about a Bola Tinubu presidency vis-a-vis the present situation in the country, the burden of governance?
The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. I have said before that each of the major candidates, Waziri Atiku Abubakar, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and Peter Obi, would be an improvement on the Buhari administration. I've said this before, and I've never deviated. I've been consistent. If you look at what Bola Tinubu has been able to achieve in Lagos, you see that Bola Tinubu does have a governmental genius. He's a very good administrator. So we can expect that if his health does not fail him, there's going to be an improvement in governance. Now, he also has baggage, being the fact that he does have links with a heroin drug cartel. And you see that papers in faraway countries like Austria, Germany, Der Spiegel, they carried it in Germany. You saw recently Uber Facts, Daily Loud. These are major media. They keep talking about that. So that's going to affect the image of Nigeria. It's going to affect our passport. But if he can find a way to work around that, Bola Tinubu is going to be a dramatic improvement on Muhammadu Buhari. However, in my opinion, now, all along I've been trying to stick with facts, but this is my opinion. In my opinion, the best person would have been Waziri Atiku Abubakar.
So, in your opinion, we've lost the best, well, as it is right now, except if the court upturns the present scenario. But as it is right now, you think Atiku is better than Bola Tinubu in terms of handling the capacity to handle the situation of Nigeria? That's what we think.
Nigeria's cause. It's Nigeria's cause. You know, the best president that we never had was Chief Obafemi Awolowo, but we never had him. You know, the second best president that we never had was Chief MK Abiola, but we never had him. So we had a situation whereby we could now pick another best president in the person of Waziri Atiku Abubakar, but you saw what happened with those 14,000 polling units. That's why I appeal to the PEPC and the Supreme Court. Follow the law. Don't follow your opinion. Follow the law and order rerun elections in those 14,000 polling units. And whatever happens, we will accept the results.
For the sake of Nigeria, because you say you've been speaking on fact, if Bola Tinubu approaches you to work with him, would you?
It will never happen.
Okay, which one? Which of the scenarios? Him approaching you or you accepting to work with him?
Uh, um, oh my gosh, I don't want to betray privilege. Somebody from Bola Tinubu's camp has already reached out to me, and I told the person that, look, it cannot happen. I can't do it. It's just against my principles. I'm not. Some people can do that. It's not in my DNA. I can't do it. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. I wish Bola Tinubu well if he eventually is sworn in and then the courts uphold his victory. But I can never work with him. I mean, look at what white heroin, the kind of damage it's done in America and in Nigeria, the number of young lives that have been killed and destroyed. I cannot, I'm a pastor, I'm an ordained pastor. Oil was put on my head. Somebody's hand was put on my head. I will give an account of my life to God. So there are things. Mark chapter 8, verse 36 and then 37 says, what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his soul? Then verse 37, or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? I can never work with Bola.
But what about a portion of the Bible that talks about repentance and giving a second chance?
There is repentance, but God does not take away the consequence of your sin. He takes away the consequence of you not getting into the kingdom of God, but the natural consequence of your sin, God doesn't take it away. That's what people do not understand. So, for instance, if you have killed a man and you pray to God, and then God is going to forgive you, but it doesn't mean that a court will not sentence you to death. No, that's still going to happen. So, a lot of people in the United States every year, tens of thousands of people, mostly young people, die as a result of white heroin. In Nigeria, the same thing. I cannot work with such a man. It would be like taking blood money.
All right. Thank you so much. In one of the petitions, the issue of drug and the past of Bola Tinubu was, in fact, I think it's the Obi and the Labour Party that said that they were questioning the candidacy of Bola Tinubu and Kashim Shettima, saying that they are unqualified and they are not fit to contest the election and have been found guilty of drug dealing in the U.S., while Shettima, according to the Obi and Labour Party's petition, entered the contest as a serving senator. So we see how that pans out on what the court will rule. But thank you so much, Reno Omokri, an author, a best-selling author, and a former presidential aide. Thank you so much indeed for your time on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Of course, don't forget that we still have FS Yusuf and Tosin Adeyanju. FS Yusuf is of the Labour Party and Peter Obi Presidential Campaign Council. Same thing with Tosin Adeyanju. And we've since been joined by a human rights lawyer, Mr. Inibehe Effiong. Thank you so much, Barrister, for joining us tonight. It's good to see you again after such a long time. Let me, because I wanted this conversation to be robust and we go around the room, but because Reno needed to excuse himself, that's why I had to allow him to say what he wanted to say. But let me allow you, because I see that you were nodding your head when Reno was speaking, and the topic is there, and a lot of people already are commenting on social media on what the issues are and what the speakers are saying. Let me get your view first and foremost.
Well, I have listened to the position canvassed and taken by Mr. Reno Omokri. I do respect his right to freedom of expression. However, one is minded to correct certain misinformation, which he has regrettably postulated, especially regarding the legal issues in the petition or arising from the election. One of the issues that he has raised, one of the issues that Mr. Reno has raised is his very strange and argument that the transmission of results is not a requirement of law. I do not know the basis. I was waiting for him to cite the provisions of the Electoral Act or the provisions of the INEC guidelines or the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that supports his argument. But let me just quickly say that what he said is not accurate. By the combined effect of Section 47 of the Electoral Act, Section 60, subsection 4 and 5, Section 64 of the Electoral Act, the requirement of transmission of results or transfer of results is a requirement of the Electoral Act. So when people say, oh, this is what INEC said, that it is not the words of Mahmoud, it is not a press statement, it is not the tweet that regulates the process of conducting election by the Electoral Act. The truth of the matter is that when you examine this provision that I have cited clinically and objectively and dispassionately, you will only be left with one irresistible conclusion, that INEC fundamentally departed from its constitutional mandate, from its own promises, from the Electoral Act and from the INEC guidelines, because by law, election is a process. Election is not an event. It is not something that just happens by a flip of the hand. There is a long process that has to take place from accreditation, right? You go to the polling unit, you are accredited, and then you vote. The votes are sorted, the votes are counted, the scores are declared, they are recorded in the Form EC8A, right? That is the polling unit result. And then the results are announced, right? The results are announced. And then when that is the announcement before the recording. Of course, at that point, you now transmit. There are two things that the Electoral Act requires transmission. One is accreditation. The second is the results itself. It is not only the figures of persons accredited by BVAS that is to be accredited. When you examine Section 60, subsection 4 and subsection 5, subsection 4 of Section 60 relates to the vote, right, to the voting, and of course the accreditation. When you look at subsection 5, you will see the results. When you go to Section 64, it becomes very clear that before the collation or a returning officer can make a declaration, he has to do what is called a confirmation or verification of the results, the accreditation and the results, before a declaration is made. That is what Section 64 says. To see that they are consistent. Please pay attention. I said accreditation and the results. So the question is, and from the polling units, this is not something that the INEC guidelines says. The Electoral Act says directly from the polling unit. So what do you do at the polling unit? If it is not live transmission, what do you do? What you simply do is that you upload, because the BVAS is programmed in a way that you upload the number of accredited voters as people are being accredited. And then when you conclude, you now snap or scan the Form EC8, upload it on the IREF from the polling unit. This is what the Electoral Act says. And I challenge anyone, read Section 64 yourself, read Section 60, read Section 47. So when Renu said that, oh, this is not a requirement of law, that he had the PhD in law, that is not correct. That is not correct. INEC themselves, from the reports we have read in the media, from channels and others, what INEC has said, INEC has not said that electronic transmission is not known to law. They have not said so. What they have said, or what they are trying to say, is to cause a confusion to say that the law does not require electronic collation. But the truth of the matter is that that has never been an argument. There is no argument regarding electronic collation. What is in contention is that transmission is part of the process of the election, a mandatory process, because the Electoral Act says shall be done in the manner prescribed by the Commission. So what manner has the Commission prescribed? When you go to paragraph 38 of the INEC guidelines, you will see clearly what it says, and you go further to even the manuals for election officials. All these things are spelled out in black and white. So for Reno to now mislead people, I think that is wrong, and I wish he was here to refer to those sections and tell me that I am wrong. Now, he has said that in 14,000 polling units, I don't know the basis upon which he arrived at that number, but interestingly, this came from him.
Yeah.
That in 14,000 polling units, that BVAS was not used.
And there was overvoting, according to him.
Well, that is a significant number.
So what
14,000,
no. So is he right or wrong? He's saying that he's not asking that the whole election should be reconducted, but based on the rules of INEC should conduct election again in those 14,000 polling units. And if you look at the petition that PDP submitted, PDP had said that the figure within the margin and the possible registered voters, those figures based on the concept of cancellation, on the fact that there was overvoting or the election was not concluded, that INEC should have considered that. I mean, what do you make of that?
It again is approbating and reprobating. You cannot say in one breath that the election, you cannot lend credibility to the process and say that it is an improvement from the elections of 2011 and 2015, and at the same time, you are questioning the basis upon which the declaration was made. Basically...
Barrister, what do you think? If you compare those elections, I asked him earlier what he thinks about the 2023 election in comparison to 2019 and 2015. And he says that we have developed, and this election is better than those other two elections.
No, that is his opinion, really, because my opinion is that what makes... let me be very clear with you. In 2015, I was part of an election petition process up to the Supreme Court. I played some role in an election petition very actively, and I monitored the process. And I also critically studied the law. In fact, I wrote an article. If you Google it, my name and card reader, you'll see an opinion where I wrote urging the Supreme Court of Nigeria to uphold the legality of the card reader. It is a very extensive research piece that I did. So I had followed that election in 2015 in particular. Now, what is strikingly different between the 2015 election and the 2023 election in terms of the legal framework is the introduction of technology. That is all. Because in 2015, the basis upon which the election of Nyesom Wike, Udom Emmanuel, and the Benue election and others were upheld was that the Supreme Court said that the issue of card reader, the use of card reader for accreditation, did not have the backing of law, even though the INEC guidelines provided for it, and that for election to be nullified, there must be a route in the Electoral Act. And the Supreme Court went further to recommend that the National Assembly should give legislative backing to the use of technology in elections. Shegun, that is what gave Nigerians the courage.
So did you think that
impetus to that's what made people to come out to vote?
Did you think that technology worked in 2023?
To the extent that BVAS was used in part, I concede that point. That is on the question of accreditation. But BVAS has dual purpose. It's not a one-purpose device, contrary to what INEC is now trying to claim.
So you think BVAS worked? There was success on one part, there was a failure on the other part.
It worked substantially where it was used for accreditation. Because
does that ground discredit the whole election?
It does, because I think election is a process. You don't pick and choose. It is like a pyramid. Once a critical part of it is taken out, it affects the entire thing. Why is this important? And let's not be sentimental. It is not about who won, really. What I am saying dispassionately is that BVAS did not fail. And I don't believe that the IREF fell. This was deliberate sabotage by INEC. And I have reasons for saying so. BVAS is meant to accredit and then to transmit. How come that there was substantially no problems with accreditation, except when, from some mischief, in those polling units, they decided not to use it. But the device itself worked. I witnessed, I'm speaking to you, based on what I saw in my own unit. BVAS actually worked for accreditation.
All right,
but when it came to upload...
Yeah. But Barrister, let me bring in the other speakers into, then I'll allow those who are listening, I'll bring them into the conversation.
Of the result, they transfer, yeah. which is what lends credibility to election.
All right.
It suddenly stop working.
All right, Barrister, give me.
So I don't believe that BVAS failed. Yeah. I believe that INEC deliberately sabotaged the BVAS.
Interesting.
And there are several other layers. There are several other issues. Disenfranchisement, the militarization of the election, These are issues that we did not expect, things that should have been prevented. Because INEC collected 300 billion for this election. So they had absolutely no excuse. They went on record promising Nigerians that this technology was going to be effective. So let us even assume for a second that the requirement of transmission is not a requirement of the Electoral Act, and that INEC is right in law. Does INEC, on the basis of morality, can this INEC still remain in office? The chairman having gone on record to say that this was going to be done, the officials having gone on record, Festus Okoye and others, to say this was going to be done, and they did not do it. Where is the moral authority? Because as the commission that seeks to conduct election,
Mr. Effiong,
not only by law, you must have a moral fiber.
Mr. Effiong, just give me a moment. Let me bring back the other speakers, and I'll get the views of some those who have joined us on Twitter Spaces and other platforms. Let's take this issue one after the other. There are several layers of the issue. We started with the 2023 election. But if you hear FSCSU, what Reno said, he said, and I asked Mr. Effiong also on the issue of the conduct of the election, 2019, 2015, and 2023, Reno said 2023 election, it has its issues, but it was better than the other election. What's your own view about that?
So talking about technology, the incorporation of technology into our electoral process, I can't outrightly say that the 2023 election is better than the 2019 election.
So
on the area of technology, because there are different. We have different aspects of the electoral process. We have the aspect of security. We have the aspect of following guidelines. But in the aspect of technology, I think a major problem we had about, just as Mr. Effiong said about the 2019 election and 2015 election, was the issue of card reader. And that necessitated the need for us to bring technology into the system, get a legislative backing to ensure that we have technology into the system. And one of the reasons why we have this enthusiasm, we're able to kill voter apathy to a significant amount, was due to the incorporation of technology. Out there, when we're telling people that, hey, go get your PVC, your votes will count, we are telling them that your accreditation system will be a better system, not the old card reader system. We'll be using the beavers. We are also telling them that their results will be transmitted electronically.
But FSCSU, what about the view of those who say, and I'd like to ask, do you think on that grounds this election is not credible?
It's not credible.
But what about those who say, if not because of the improvement in the election, the Labour Party would never have had a 34 member in the House of Reps, and they would never have had any senator. That if not because of the improvement, you probably would never have had an NNPP having the number of members of House of Reps and the number of senators that they have. In fact, you probably wouldn't have even won any state governorship election. What do you say to that?
So it's all about a contest of interest. You won't compare the contest of interest in the presidential wing than the contest of interest in the legislative.
So we're looking at the election as a whole. So, I mean, the election as a whole, which produced Labour Party candidates now elected. For those who say, in fact, it would have been a 3-4 horse race, like we always see in the National Assembly. But we have 8 political parties in the National Assembly. There are those who argue that it's because the process has improved and that the process was largely credible. Those are their own thoughts and those are their own views.
You know, just like Barrister Inebe said, the election is a process. Just because one aspect of the process is working and 99 other side is not working does not mean that we will just run a conclusion and say, oh, this process is credible, this process is excellent. We are trying to put this process on the table to have a granular review of the process. So we have to take it one after the other, just as you say, and not just clumsy it up and say, oh, it's excellent, it's perfect. Let's look at things that happen.
But is it better than the last election?
I can't say.
Tosin.
I think I want to respond to one or two things Rena said. First of all, Rena said Atiku would have been a better president if he had won. But he spoke about the record of Ashwaju when he was governor of Lagos. Put both of them on a scale of preference. Ashwaju will do very well, better than any of those contenders that ran with him in the last election. His record speaks for him. It's a pride for this country to have him as the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He will not disappoint Nigeria. Secondly, on the issue of 14,000 figure that Reno is bandied around, who told him that they were overvoting in those places? All polling booths that were voting took place, or there were crises in the last election. INEC conducted a rerun today. Any case they have at the tribunal, let those judges and lawyers handle it. It's not at the tribunal with the judges, or it's not lawyers to Waziri at the court. So those figures,
but he has a right to his views.
He has a right, but those figures are wrong. It is not true that they were overvoting the 14,000 polling units. Everywhere that there was overvoting in the last election, and the last election, Shehu, you are a journalist, you are aware that there is a rerun in several polling booths in the country today. And it as a result of overvoting that were cancelled. It's as a result of crisis in those polling booths. So it should not come on public air and indict INEC. INEC has conducted a credible election. In the history of this country, we've never had it so good that about 8 governors lost elections. You are aware in this country that these governors will sit down in government house and write results. It's very unfortunate that Nigerians will sit down on such platform to discredit such an election. I'm even surprised about my colleague here in the Labour Party that don't have one councillor when they ran for election this last election. But today they are proud of about 30-something members in the House of Reps, the senators they have, and you come on such platform that would give you that opportunity to say the election is not credible. This is wrong. We don't have any other country than Nigeria. In those advanced countries, even as beautiful as America is, as beautiful as the democracy is, they still have challenges. You saw what happened in the last election, where Trump invited people that they should come and take back America. They still have challenges. Nigeria democracy is a process. We should endure the process. We will get there someday. We should not just discard the good things about this election and sit down and say everything is wrong.
About this election?
The good thing about this election is the result you have seen. For the first time in history of Nigeria, a returning president, an outgoing president, losing a state, a candidate of a party ruling a state, losing a state. For this election, Ashwaju ran a cashless election. There was no money for this election. They said he was going to use money. They prevented him from using money. There was no fuel. They wanted to incite Nigerians about the fuel issue. There was no fuel in this country. The man still, with all these challenges, he won the election.
Do you think he would have gotten more votes? He
will have gotten more votes. Ashwaju had no support from anywhere. He was running like an opposition candidate. We were involved in this election. We knew what we suffered. We've been in this project for the past 4 years. We knew what we suffered in this election.
So Bola Tinubu has been preparing to be president for 4 years.
He has been prepared for more than 20 years. But for the past 4 years, some of us with Honorable Faleke, led by Honorable Faleke, had been in the saddle working for this project. And we knew what we suffered in this process. We knew the intimidation, we knew the blackmail, we knew the sabotage this man suffered. And the use of technology that people are now saying that they didn't use it. If not for technology, will Labour Party or what's it called? There's this party that won 2 reps in the House of Reps, ADC. Mm-hmm. I'm from Kogi. In that election, I participated in that election. I knew what transpired. In my polling unit where I vote, it's about 800 registered voters. But on that day, Beavers could only accredit about 200, or less than 200, about 170 something. APC got about 103. PDP got about 40 something. In the past, they would have voted the 800. Because even when people were trying to guess it, the coppers there were saying, no, it's against the Electoral Act. Some of us were saying that we don't want it cancelled, that let's follow the law. In the past, the 800 registered voters in that polling unit will have been voted and counted and result declared.
Are you saying there were no rigging in this election?
For me, I'm not aware of any rigging anywhere. Ashwaju won this election clean and clear.
FSC, there are no riggings in this election.
No, I don't agree with him. Before coming back to the rigging, I think there's this assumption that I want to just quickly clear here. There's this system of tokenism that's so prominent among Nigerians, and sometimes I wonder why people want to settle for less. Just because we had an election where Labour Party got members in the House of Reps or other elected offices does not mean that we will not say, oh, this process is excellent, let's accept this and allow the rest. We had a law. The law never said be implemented halfway. The law says be implemented 100%. So I don't see why they are, as in, my brothers here and others are expecting us to say, oh, let's rise up and celebrate that this election is excellent just because we got some seat. No, it's all or none. Let's have it. This is a democracy. We're asking for a system. We're asking for a better system. And if we want to start working towards getting that better system, let's get serious with our actions. If we want the system to work, let's execute the law completely.
All right. Let's move, because we have other issues. I'll also bring Inibe into the conversation. And this time around is about the comment of Chimamanda Adichie. You heard what Reno said. Yeah. Reno said, well, he sees Chimamanda as a partisan person in that regard, and the fact that based on law, he doesn't agree with Chimamanda's position on that. And what's your I think maybe I should ask Tosin.
Yes,
because Dele Alake has also responded. You know, he said that there was no need for America to congratulate Bola Tinubu.
Yes, I think as I said earlier, we should not be bad losers. Chimamanda endorsed Obi before that election. It's a public knowledge. And Obi lost. So you don't expect her to be happy. So for us, I think we should not even discuss our issue any longer.
If you allow me, please let me comment.
For us, that letter should be trashed in the dustbin of history.
That letter was written.
Whatever. It's not.
That you cannot congratulate Bola Tinubu just yet.
I think a lot of people have
because
replied.
She laid some facts, some issues on the table. To the credence that the election was not credible.
As I've said earlier, those issues have been laid by several commentators that she's partisan. She's not in a position to write such letter because she's a supporter of an Obi presidency.
So what I want people to really understand here is
did you hear what Dele Alake said? Dele Alake had said that Adichie's letter was predicated on assumptions and not fact, therefore an outright falsehood. He also maintained that a letter was out of a hope of a possible Peter Obi's victory due to prior flawed opinion polls.
You know, people will have their opinions. They have the right to hold their opinions. So what I want people to understand here is we are not asking for an election that will just say, okay, favor us irrespective of whatever process was executed for the result to be out. We are asking for a free and fair election. Just because Chimamanda endorsed Peter Obi or she leans towards the Labour Party side does not mean that when an election wasn't conducted in a free and fair manner, she'll fold her arms and not say anything.
But is it right for her to say the American government should not congratulate her, inferring that there shouldn't be any recognition of Bola Tinubu?
Because she feels it wasn't conducted in a free and fair manner.
But is it right?
Yes. If she feels it wasn't conducted
as declared and the court has not upturned it.
This is a democracy. We are not in a military regime. We're not in an authoritarianism. This is a democracy. You have, I believe, citizens have the right to say, "Oh, this system, this process was not followed rightly." So I feel that I shouldn't support it because definitely we have a guideline there. We have the Electoral Act. We have the Constitution that she's using to measure all this. So if they are not in line with what the Constitution that she believes in, if they are not in line with what the Electoral Act that she believes in and the INEC guideline, she has the statutory right to say, hey, I don't support a foreign government congratulating this man because the process wasn't credible.
But is it wrong?
Is it wrong for what?
No, there are some things that are legally right and there are some things that are morally right. So is it a morally right thing or legally right thing? If the American government had congratulated Bola Tinubu, are they committed any offense by doing that?
On legal ground, we wouldn't say maybe we wouldn't say they've committed an offense. We only say, oh, they are not giving respect to our constitution. They don't have regard for our constitution for them to congratulate him, because we have guidelines to support the electoral system. And if that guidelines is not followed, and you are congratulating this person that happens to be called the winner of the election, then it's wrong.
Let me bring in Inibe. What do you make of Chimamanda's article, open letter, saying that the American government shouldn't have, that it tarnishes the very democratic reputation that America prides itself in to have congratulated Bola Tinubu?
It is a right to freedom of expression,
which
is guaranteed under Section 39 of our Constitution.
But is it
and that expression should be respected.
But is it right?
She has the right to express that view. For me, it is a question of foreign policy. I know that the U.S. government primarily, their foreign policy is dictated by their, the American interest. They will always put the interest of their country before any other consideration. Now, the truth of the matter is that if we are to be honest with ourselves, if we are to really speak truth about this election, there are aspects of it that needed to be addressed. There are things that took place that every democratic country should be concerned about. And there have been examples where some, pretensions of elections have taken place, and the U.S. government have come out to denounce them. We have seen them denounce election in Russia and several other countries, and even South African countries. But typically, I know that as a matter of foreign policy, the U.S. will always align with any government that would protect their interests one way or the other. So, but for her to say that the U.S. should not have congratulated Asiwaju, whether she is right on that or not, I personally, because what is the basis of the congratulation? When you are congratulated, you are directly or indirectly accepting the legitimacy of the process. That's the truth of the matter. Now, I have made the point that yes, regarding the 2023 elections, the use of beavers for the purpose of accreditation was an improvement from what we have had over the years. But to the extent that there were a litany of other issues. One, the total abandonment of technology to upload elections, to upload results. That affected the credibility of the process. The disenfranchisement that we saw in Lagos, the result that we had in Rivers would have been drastically different had technology been respected. So when people say the U.S. should not congratulate Asiwaju, what they are saying is that examine the issues that took place during the election and address them. I expect, for example, that the U.S., if they are genuinely interested in our democratic process, should be looking at imposing visa ban and sanctions on individuals and entities that aided the brigandage that we witnessed. People who went on record to incite ethnic and religious hatred during the election, irrespective of political party affiliation. I expect the U.S. government, the State Department, to sanction them. They haven't done that. So they have not done that.
Mr. Inibe, yeah. So because you're a lawyer, and I wanted to put this scenario forward. Maybe you can explain from that point of view. If you begin a matter from the first court of action, and of course you have the opportunity to appeal it, to go to the appellate court, then up to the Supreme Court. Let's assume that is a governorship contest. If anyone was declared a governor, would you say you do not recognize the person just because you do not believe the person won the election when the court has not given a final position? And that is what those people who had argued and countered Chimamanda Adichie's position to say, presently, what is fact is Bola Tinubu is the president-elect. Except if court upturns it, it remains a fact.
There are two recognitions here. We have the legal recognition, which cannot be extinguished, except the Supreme Court upturns the election. Because it is not even at the Court of Appeal, really. Because by the Electoral Act, and I have made this point in several fora, that dependency of the petitions at the Court of Appeal is not going to stop the swearing in of Tinubu on the 29th of May. I have said it on record, and I can be quoted on that. I don't subscribe to the old talk about interim government or whatever. It does not have place in our constitution. And even if the election is to be nullified by the Court of Appeal, the law today remains that the person declared will remain in office until the right of appeal is exhausted, in this case, the Supreme Court. So that legal recognition is there. But a citizen has the right. You see, legality and legitimacy are two different things. They are two different things, right? So something can be legal, but may not be legitimate. Because the legality is a question of the letters of the law. But legitimacy is derived from the people. That's the truth of the matter. So what Chimamanda did is not to take away the legality of INEC's declaration until otherwise determined. What she did, my assessment of what she did, the comment she made, was to say that as a citizen of Nigeria, she does not recognize the legitimacy of that process. So those who are saying that they will not recognize Tinubu as president-elect, they cannot say so on the basis of law. They can only say so on the basis of legitimacy.
Mr. Effiong, if this case goes up to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court validates Bola Tinubu's victory, would you then say that America should congratulate him?
I think the State Department has congratulated him already. I think the congratulation that we haven't seen is President Biden. I am aware that the State Department had made a statement on the election. Whether that statement was sufficient or not is a different thing.
Some leaders across the world have not. They've sent their greetings, some have not. But let me quickly get to one other very interesting issue, which also got some kind of international attention. And it was the Time magazine recognition of Bola Tinubu. And Reno had said on this podcast that the attack on the writer were by the obedience. FSCSU.
You know, whenever a situation whereby there is a disagreement against what Tinubu stands for or Tinubu's person, the blame is always shoved towards the obedient. They always say, oh, he's obedient, he's obedient, he's obedient.
Obedience are not responsible for this one?
Yeah, I could say that, okay, obedience made comments because they felt that, hey, you can't say this man is influential when he has drug cases. You can't say this man is influential when his party, during the election, was notable for several violence. You can't say this man is influential when his ideas does not resonate with young people. And I think I wasn't really happy that Mr. Reno left, because I really wanted him to be here while we're talking about all this, because he dropped this assertion, and this assertion was supposed to be countered in his presence, but he left. He also noted that he can't work with Tinubu. So how can you say somebody is influential and you're even saying you can't work with the person?
So being influential,
that's what I also want to define.
You can be influential and not.
Yes. If Time is saying Tinubu is influential, I believe by whatever principle or guideline that Time is using to say a person is influential, means that the person has been able to steer certain changes that has benefited humanity. Before they say, oh, this person is influential. I can't imagine Time saying Osama bin Laden is influential. It won't work. But you saying an Obama is influential, a Beyonce is influential, we can relate to it. We can point to the things that they have done that has better humanity.
What do you think, Tosin?
Yes, I think Times magazines are not they are not brown envelope journalists. They are people that know their onions. The journalist that wrote that story is an accomplished person. And for who Asiwaju is, you can't write the story of Lagos without the footprint of Asiwaju. Reflect back to 1999. Where was Lagos? How was Lagos? Sharon, you and I know that we're jumping in Molues. There were refuse dumps everywhere. Lagos was like a slum. But today, Lagos is a beggar city. Kudos to Asiwaju's footprint and legacies. And his master plan, roll-up plan for 25 years, master plan for Lagos. Today, we have a rail system in Lagos that is working, that Sanwo-Olu is about to complete. These are some of the initiatives of Asiwaju when he was governor of Lagos. Ashwaju has given birth to and nurtured several people that have risen in politics, in elective positions. You can count them. He has inspired a lot of young people. In 1999, when he was governor, he surrounded himself with young people. And I will not be surprised today that when he's sworn in, his cabinet will be full of young people because he believes in young people. He has inspired a lot of young people. He has influenced a lot of young people. He has impacted a lot of young people. And it's a role model to many. So for anybody to challenge what Time magazine wrote about him, they're not being fair to the man.
So you think that Bola Tinubu merited that Time magazine recognition?
Sheol, we are here speaking like this, free speech, because of the likes of Bola Tinubu, the contribution he made in fighting for democracy in this country. Where were these characters? Where were these people when the military were in charge of this system? It was the likes of him that funded the pro-democracy groups. They risked their life, they abandoned their families, they fought for democracy.
So on that basis, you think that
many bases like this. I'll give you examples. I can give you 100 examples of why
young people,
he merited it.
Young people. I think
I can give you examples of more than 100
I think we're really patronizing young people in a way that is so disrespectful. When you're talking about Tinubu uplifting young people, the young people you should be talking about are those graduates out there that are not sure of what life holds for them in the next 5 years. The young people you should be talking about are those people out there in Lagos that can be easily attacked by thugs, that can be easily attacked by armed robbers, and the government will not come to their rescue. The young people you should be talking about are the people that were killed at Lekki Toll Gate during the protest. Where citizens were standing to exercise their democratic right to say, hey, we need a better policing system. We need a better system that will leave no one behind. These are the young people you should be talking about.
So you don't think Tinubu merits the Time magazine recognition?
He doesn't.
Inibe?
Yeah, well, my perception of the Time magazine is a look. I think, while some of us are open to the idea of, Western countries punishing our leaders who are misgoverning us, whether by way of visa ban or restriction or whatever, in the final analysis, we must find solutions to our own problems at the continent, not just at the country. I know that Time magazine would have had its own parameters for including Tinubu as one of the 100 most influential persons, because I want to know what basis they use, right? I think that is the question that we should even be asking. What criteria, what did they examine to arrive at that conclusion that Asiwaju deserved to have his name listed among these 100 influential persons? And what is the influence? That should also be defined. Is it political influence? Is it influence in terms of relationship with the citizens of the country or to the world? What's exactly the influence that is brought to bear? I do not know. Frankly, I do not know. And I haven't even commented on this before now. I have totally left the discussion because I do not know the basis upon which Time magazine arrived at this conclusion.
So one of the reasons, Inibe, let's put some perspective to it. Time magazine said that Tinubu accomplished what they refer to as no easy feat by winning the Nigerian presidential election after nearly 2 decades of preparation.
What preparation are they talking about? This is the first time that Asiwaju has run for president. Unlike Atiku, who has run 2 up to 3 times, Tinubu has never contested for president. I think that is just diversionary.
No, the idea. No, you were saying that you want to know the basis in which Time magazine recognized Bola Tinubu, and I'm giving perspective. One of the reasons in that article is the fact that they refer to the to Bola Tinubu's victory as no easy feat. That winning an election in this climate is always a very difficult one. But for him winning, they refer to it as no easy feat. Therefore, that recognition.
It is not a political position that they have taken. Because at the end of the day, in every election cycle, someone is going to be declared as president, whether rightly or wrongly. So if that is the basis, if what you are saying is the basis for making Tinubu to be part of that list, I expect that in the next election, that the person that is declared rightly or wrongly should also merit inclusion in the Time Magazine list of 100 influential persons. I believe that that recognition should speak to the character of the person that is being recognized. And this is not a personal issue, really. I just expected that Time Magazine would have given us more information on the basis, because I read through it. I read through what they wrote about Asiwaju, really. And there were areas I had expected them to respond to. Do Nigerians have the right to express their views about that recognition?
So
the answer is yes.
Let me put up a scenario here. If Peter Obi had won the election, would you consider him fit for Time Magazine 100 most influential people in the world?
Not necessarily. I don't think it's a question of, I don't think it should be automatic. The basis for inclusion should not be. What I'm saying?
What about
I want to be understood.
Yeah. What about
the point I'm making is that the basis for inclusion should not just be tied to being declared as the winner of an election. If you are influential, that influence should translate to the impact that you have had, either on the people of your country or the world at large. So what is the influence that is being defined? Is it just electoral fortune? I don't find that satisfactory. So it wouldn't have made any difference for me, whether it was Atiko, whether it was Shushowore, whether it was Obi, or it was Tinubu. What will matter to me is the basis. Speak to the character of the person. Speak to the impact that the person has had on the citizens of his country. Then I will pay attention to it. But if you are saying that once someone has won or is declared as president-elect of Nigeria is among the most influential people in the world, that amounts to a complete negation. It makes nonsense of the entire recognition.
Mr. Effiong, with the character and the track record of Bola Tinubu that you know, does it fit into the shape of someone that could be recognized on the Time Magazine 100 most influential people?
I think Tinubu has some questions that some of us are genuinely waiting for him to answer someday. One of which is his real name. The second is his age. The third is his state of origin. The other is there are several issues about his background, his education.
So on that basis, right?
Those questions.
Yeah.
Yes, until I have answers to those questions, I will have a problem accepting inclusion in the 100 most influential persons.
All right.
Maybe Tinubu has answers to those questions. I believe, look, one of the things I love about this petition before the court, is that it has now afforded Tinubu an opportunity at least to speak to one issue, which is the drug allegation. So whatever the court says now will either be in his favor or not. Because I'm not comfortable with the fact that Asiwaju is not talking to Nigerians throughout the campaign. We cannot afford to have that again.
In fact, there's a question. There's a question.
If he has spoken to these issues, probably the opinion of some people would have changed.
As
I speak to you, I don't have answers to those questions.
There's a question Reno asked, and I wanted to ask Tosin. Where is Bola Tinubu, Tosin?
Yes, for the doubting Thomases, they predicted that Asiwaju will not even spend 1 month before it collapse, or that will not even be able to spend 1 month to campaign. And this is a man that campaigned for 6 months. Before that rigorous campaign, he moved around this country. There's no state he did not visit, some state twice for the primaries. And after the victory, we should expect him to go and rest and gain some strength back. Some of us are still working. We work throughout the campaign, and we are feeling, as young as I am, we are feeling it. So somebody that is above 70, you don't expect him not to have some rest and plan for the country.
You are explaining his health situation.
No.
People are asking, where is Bola Tinubu?
I'm coming. He's abroad. He's resting.
Where in abroad?
He's in France. Okay. The information I have.
Has he gone to Saudi Arabia?
I'm not aware he's in Saudi Arabia. I know the president is in Saudi Arabia. I'm not aware. I know he's abroad. He has gone on vacation. And he has gone to rest and plan the Renew Hope agenda for the country that he promised us. He's going to give it to us. He will be back soon. I assure all Nigerians the man is well, he's healthy, he's refreshed, and he's planning for the country. So no fears. So all those doubting Thomases that said the man will not make the campaign, the man will fall aside, the man has completed the campaign. Now the outcry now is that where is Bola Tinubu? Bola Tinubu will come. We are planning for inauguration.
Because prominent people, prominent people in the party, in the media department, has been posting pictures, old pictures of Tinubu, and claiming that they are recent pictures until they were all busted.
Who has posted that in the media?
Sam did that. This journalist,
Sam was never part of our media directorate. No. If you call Mr. Dele Alake, Bayo Nanuga, Festus Keyamo, Fani Kayode, I will tell you, did any of them post any fake pictures?
They are members of your party. These are people writing in favor of the party.
You made a statement just now that members of our media directorate of the campaign, and as I'm talking to you, at least I'm an active member of the campaign. I'm telling you that the man is well, the man is fine, the man is...
I believe if the person is well, you don't have to go extra length to have a proof of life, to show proof of life to the people. If he's well, speak to Nigerians. They've been issue that has been raising up. Speak to Nigerians. Let Nigerians know that you're well. Instead of your party members bringing old pictures to show proof of life.
My brother.
That's deceitful.
My brother, if you know Ashwaju very well, Ashwaju respect constituted authority. If you look at him, under these 8 years of Buhari, he hardly interferes.
It's not
hold on, I'm coming. The man, we still have a president and commander-in-chief in place. We cannot have two presidents in the same country.
It is not an issue of interference. Almost every day you see Peter Obi on the media. Is he interfering? No, but he's there.
Peter Obi did not win the election now.
Is he interfering?
Hold on.
He's not interfering, but you are seeing him.
Hold on.
So the issue is, where is he? And you talked about him resting somewhere in Paris, because I believe Paris is a mega city. And if you say Lagos is a mega city, why is he not resting in Lagos?
Can I say something?
For example.
You see, I've said it on countless times that we should not focus on little things. Let's focus on big things.
No, it's not little things.
I'm coming. Obi is free to speak to Nigerians at any time it feels like. Waziri is free to speak to Nigeria anytime it feels like. They are not president-elect. Ashwaju is president-elect. The man deserves some respect. The man deserves some rest. The man needs to plan for this country. Nigeria, to run Nigeria is a Herculean task. And the man knows what lies ahead of him. And he's meeting with his teams daily. So wherever he is, he's planning for this country. So let us just be patient. You will see Ashwaju very soon. He will be back to us in Nigeria. And you will have him interview if you feel like. If you feel like grant interview, he will grant an interview. But as at the moment, the man is fine. Everything about him is okay. He's resting. He's planning for this country. And by the special grace of God, we witness the best government in the history of this country.
All right. Let me get to Twitter Spaces and let's get some of our listeners and some of those participants view. I know that Isaac Godwin Obi at Zik Toby 5 on Twitter, he's raised his hand to speak. Isaac, if you can go ahead and speak, the mic is on.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sheon. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Good evening. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, to some of the issues that we've been discussing here. I think we've talked about the credibility of the elections, if these elections were credible or not. My own opinion, not just my opinion, but as well a fact. The 2023 general elections were not credible. Okay, let me cite the example of my own polling unit. Okay, I voted in Imo State. I was in Enugu 2 days to the elections. Because of these elections, I had to leave Nsukka, travel down to Imo State. Despite the whole sit at home, whatever thing, we still people trooped out in numbers because we had faith in the guidelines that INEC had laid out. Okay, in my polling unit, we ensured everything went rightly. We were doing our best to ensure that nobody, no person came from anywhere to vote twice. Okay, after everything, it now got to the point where they had to like upload the results. Problem. We held the INEC officials in my polling units. We held them down in my polling units up until 2 a.m. 2 a.m. on the 26th of February. Elections held 25th. As at 2 a.m. 26th of February, we were sitting the INEC officials for them to upload this result. Not only those from my polling unit, we even held those in another polling unit close by. So that they could upload this result, because according to the INEC guidelines, that was what was stated out, but they couldn't. From password to network, okay, they said network. We had to provide our own Wi-Fi and everything for these guys. Okay, upload this result. They couldn't. And now, okay, the next morning, as at 2 a.m., police not came. It was the police that came, took them, and the local government. All polling units. I will state my polling unit. So you can go check it on IRF right now. You can go check it on IRF. New Owerri Ward 1. Polling unit 011, Morning Market Square. If you uploaded for my own polling unit, is a white paper, blank.
There was nothing on it.
White paper. Sir, I didn't get you.
No. You were saying that it's a blank paper. There was nothing on it.
Nothing on it. You can go check it. I just stated it now. New Owerri Ward 1 in Owerri Municipal Local Government. New Owerri Ward 1, Morning Market Square, polling unit 011. Go check it. It's a blank paper. There is nothing on it till today. So I don't even know if my own votes of all others that waited there count a broad generator from my house so that we'll have light and vote and everything. We ensure everything. When next day we went online, we were seeing a totally different thing. Okay, in local governments in the same Imo State, in local governments like Oru East and West, elections did not hold. In most of, if you go on IRF to results for those places, over 200 votes and LP having 0. Went Oru West, Imo State. How possible is that? And let us remember that for the first time in a long while, we had an election whereby the youths that normally on election day would be playing football on the streets, they decided to queue up. And then you dash their hope this way and you're coming out to tell them that the elections is credible. Who does that?
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Let me bring in Idris, Ibrahim Cargo at Cargo_Idris. Let's get your view, Idris, on some of these issues that we're discussing.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, thank you. This election was not free, no fair, and it's far away from credible. Beside, we all believe what the president a free and fair election, and the INEC gave us this hope that it's going to be a free and fair election. The beavers, the RF, and everything is going to be there 100%, which the INEC chairman keep making us understand and keep promising to us is going to be functional that very day. It's not. But I have a question for the APC guys, because I don't even like to talk about the Labour Party guys. So my question is this: can somebody please tell me from the APC side that contracted the INEC 2015, 2019, and 2023? And this contractor, is he a politician? If he is a politician, from which party, please? Thank you.
Tosin, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, I will respond. Yes. Thank you for your question. For some of us, as I've said earlier, Ashwaju ran this election against all odds. He ran like an opposition party because it was a cashless election. People felt that he had so much money, they would prevent him from spending money. There was scarcity of fuel everywhere. There's a lot of things working against our ambition when we're running for this election.
But you know, Tosin, the question he was asking is
I'm
about
coming at.
the
I'm
contract.
I'm coming at
The
that.
contract for the election.
I'm coming at
Were
that.
were they the APC
I'm
folks
coming,
that got the contract?
I'm
and
coming,
who are these people?
I'm coming at that. See, INEC is an independent body and is headed by a professor, which is not a politician. And some of us, our political party, I'm not aware that any contract was given to any APC member in terms of printing of ballot papers or any other thing. I'm not aware. I'm not privy to such a contract award. So I think you should direct this question to INEC chairman and the people responsible for the election.
All right. Let me bring in yet another person. Durotimi Daudu of Lagos at Timmy Blaze on Twitter. Your mic is on, Durotimi. Let's get your views on some of these issues. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Sean. Yeah, commenting about the elections, absolutely, it was not a free and fair election. It was, mad with, excessive rigging and also voter intimidation. But I would say that, unfortunately, the enablers of this terrible system have become the whalers, because all of them, including the Labour Party, including the PDP guys who are here wailing about the elections, are also enablers of this very terrible system. Majority of the supporters of the Labour Party are ex-PDP members. And in 2019, if I recall, it was the same rigging that happened amongst these two political parties. So this is the system that you guys have enabled over the years that is coming back to haunt you now, right? And as I just want to quickly touch on Alex, Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu being outside the country at this particular time. I mean, I hope this is not going to be the case of, right? Why would we have in a nation that is on the brink of, I don't even know how to even describe it, our president-elect, and people are proud, Nigerians, people who will call themselves patriots, are proud to come upon a platform like this and say that the president-elect is relaxing in France. It's the kind of things that we hear in this country will make one almost lose his mind. Our president is supposed to be in the country. See this scenario in any country that wants to progress, where someone that claims to have just been elected president is going to go and rest outside this country. When it's time for the election conversation, these same APC people are the ones who will tell you Nigerians are not patriots. If he needs to rest, what happens to Calabar? What happens to other states that he can go and rest? Why do our politicians need to go for meetings outside the country, need to go for medical checkup outside the country? Everything outside that they want to do in this country is to die and be buried here. But every other thing they want to do outside the country. So I would advise Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu to come back to the country. It's a height of irresponsibility to be in France or any other country that he is right now. And he should not, repeat that same Buhari scenario where we don't even know what's going on. If he's sick, let us know, because we deserve to know as the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Durotimi. Let me bring in Jalo at Jalo 7142477 on Twitter. Jalo, your mic is on. Please go ahead and speak.
Call the numbers. Yeah. Thank you. Of those in Nigeria that I really love my heart for. I'm down some law program in Nigeria now, and I pray to God Almighty to see you through eventually. What I've been able to see in Nigeria is that we have some people that are weak in terms of Nigeria now. We don't have patriotic Nigerians. I believe you've come to the US several times. The last time you came to Washington, I saw you from afar. So you will see Americans, we have one creed, right? Regardless of the situation, America is number one. Outside of America, America is number one. I have the privilege to serve in the US military, right? At the highest level, at least. and then within the information technology space of it. And before I left Nigeria, I practiced a little bit within the law as a legal practitioner, and I did a lot of that too in the US over here. So you have a lot of Nigerians in the diaspora who are doing exceptionally well. But when we have an election, we have a section of the country, right, trying to paint a different, a dirty narrative of the country in the eyes of the international community, I believe it speaks volume of their patriotism as Nigerians. You know, I had a conversation over the week with some of my asking me, are we in, listen to this, are we having now a Trump in Nigeria, a Trump scenario in Nigeria? You know what that means? Mm-hmm. That are we having the MAGA republics, the level of MAGA republics, Republicans in Nigeria, the fascists, the insurrectionists in Nigeria? So when you listen to that, you have a pause as a Nigerian. And with Nigerians, we need to start checking ourselves. We have politicians, how we like or we love these politicians. We still have to be objective to the fact that, do you actually want to be an active and a patriotic Nigerian, or you just want to love Nigeria when it suits your purpose or when it's convenient? Those are the questions Nigerians should be asking. And then when we have a lot of people talking about the youth of Nigeria, we should always understand the fact that we do not have monolithic youth, right? We have youth in the north. Okay. When you look at the temperature of the country now, you will see that the north, they've already moved on. This noise and this whole, campaign of calumny against Nigeria, against the nation, is coming from a certain section of the country, which is wrong. And the international community, they are seeing that already. All right. We need to be careful how we project Nigeria to the international community.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me bring in Sub-Zero. I just want to get about 2 or 3 more people quickly and get their own intervention and views. Sub-Zero at Sub-Zero Father, please quickly, let's get your views on some of these issues.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Quick points, please. Regardless of who anyone supported in the last election, certainly people will have their opinions. I supported Peter Obi in the last election. And now what we must understand is this. There are issues that the ruling party and the president-elect are running from. We went to the poll, hoping that Peter Obi will win, but we were ready to accept whatever result that comes out of the whole exercise if it was free, fair, and credible, which it is not. People died, and nobody has been held accountable for these deaths. We, all those in APC, knew what happened in River State. People died there. People were intimidated, were suppressed, were oppressed because they wanted to vote. Same thing also in Lagos. And these numbers, we are saying that these numbers form a significant part of what was given to Tinubu. And you want us to be quiet and not say anything because we want to be patriotic. That cannot happen at all. If it was free, fair, and credible, and if it went well, certainly nobody will be crying foul. The man who spoke before me spoke about what's happening in the north. I want to tell you that the north does not have the majority stake in this election because everyone agrees that it is the turn of the south. When it was the turn of the north in 2011, when Buhari lost the election, we knew what happened there, over there. They were not quiet. They arose in their anger and committed several atrocities in response to the result of that election. So if we in the South are crying now because of the results, yes, because something has happened that should not have happened in the first place. So we cannot say, okay, it's enough, election is over, let us marry. No, we have to address it because this thing will repeat itself again in 2027. If you intimidate people, if you foment tyranny on people who want to cast their votes, then it should be addressed and people should be held accountable, should be prosecuted. Wike is in River State doing everything he can to oppress the opponents, to oppress the other political parties. Nobody's talking about it. But because he's working for ABC, he is good to go. How long are we going to continue like this? When it favors you, it is fine. Let us heal. Let us go forward.
All right.
And like Bro Timmy said, look at Dawood said, where is the man that was elected? He's chilling somewhere. What efforts is he even making to address these issues that we have spoken about? There was rigging. Why should we keep silent about it? You are saying that we should not portray Nigeria in the bad light. When people are doing the wrong things, we should keep quiet.
Sub-Zero.
For how long are we going to keep quiet?
Yeah. Thank you, Sub-Zero. Let me bring in Oba_Westside. Oba_Westside, your mic is on. Or if Oba is not ready, Benga, can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh, thank you, sir, for bringing up this. Yes. Sir, we need to use every opportunity to enlighten people and maybe disabuse their hard belief that the election is rigged. The election is rigged. They are portray Nigeria in a very the shores of Nigeria. No election anywhere is perfect. We saw what happened in the US, the last election of Donald Trump. So Donald Trump did not trying to bring down the institution of America. So somebody should also respect the institution here. So and the fact that some people are still saying they are saying undemocratically that person cannot govern us, this person cannot rule us, as if they are arrogating the power of the judiciary to themselves. It is so undemocratic. So we should be democratic. The election cannot be cancelled because of a little pocket of. For example, the Lagos they keep pointing to, you have out of like thousands of polling units, you have like 82 that were fought with violence. Can you, because of that, cancel everything? What about people are not talking about this? We saw what happened today at Imo State. People were beaten, people were even tortured to death. Nobody's talking about that. So the election is very good. It's fair and fair.
Right. Thank you so much, Benga. Can you hear me? Oba_Westside. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I just want to say this quickly. I just want to beg everybody, Nigerian, to just be patriotic. The image some Nigerians are putting out there for the country is really, really bad, and it's becoming so frustrating and annoying. But we all went to the election. Everybody had their votes. Regardless of whoever it is you supported, I think the election for me was the best election in Nigeria, because I've been polling elections since 2003 in Nigeria, and I can categorically say this is the best election in Nigeria. Regardless of the fact that some people, because their candidate lost, are wallowing tears and everywhere. It's just so bad for me, and I don't like what they are doing. Let's just move forward. And for someone that is saying the president-elect is not in the country, the fact that I just want to ask you is the president-elect, you still have a president that is ruling the country. So let the president continue. On the day of inauguration, if we don't see him, then we have issues. So I don't know what you want to do right now. It's just we have the president. If you have any issue, address it to the president. I don't know what people are saying. It's just people are just becoming undemocratic. I feel like they are just being smart about it. Well, we moved forward, and the election was free. And for me, it was fair to a large extent. If I'm going to score that election, I was scoring 75%.
Right.
And if everybody should just admit the result and let's move on. That's what I want to say.
Thank you so much.
Patriotic. Thank you very much.
Let's hear from Pascal Ayos here at Project P.
Yeah, thank you, Shane, for this opportunity. You see, this election is the biggest travesty that has ever had as a nation. And it is more worrisome and tell you that then, Shane, you interviewed Festus severally on your show. And he told you how Beavers was the game changer, how the IRF was going to be used. But then on the election day, the IRF was nowhere to be found. It was not working. We witnessed in Nigeria, in Lagos, in many other states, where people were disenfranchised from voting, people from certain ethnic groups or who were perceived to be supporting a particular candidate, we are stopped from vote videos. We stop threatening people to vote if they're supporting Mr. A or it was free and fair. And then some people who are not even in Nigeria are saying that Nigerians who are complaining are not being patriotic for complaining, for making the whole world know that an evil has been done on Nigerians. That Nigeria is a country that is made up of millions of intelligent people, millions of hardworking people who earn genuine living, is about by a man who we don't even know his origin, a man who has been convicted in the USA, a man who has so many questions about him, and yet people want us to, because of patriotism, to keep quiet and accept such evil. It's a shame that Nigerians have come to this level just because of a support, for one man. It's a very big shame.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's listen to at Redsin Dead Ted Eke. Redsin Ted Eke.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, good. See, so I think a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, as we speak, still don't understand the election that just took place, and that is to talk about rigging. And somebody just said here, I mean, you look at that language that the North does not have a stake. I am an Yoruba man in the North Central. And the election in Nasarawa was clean, and you saw when it came out. My polling unit, the same thing. Nigerians always expect miracles when bad. I traveled from Abuja to Akure, and guess what? Majority of the time on the road, there was no network. The beavers is just like your smartphone. The beavers here. Network challenge is there. When we were shouting that the Naira redesign was a curse, people did not understand it. You cannot talk about Naira redesign and then you want everybody to go cashless when 70% of your population or of your country is not on the internet. And not just that, it is also, you're also struggling with mobile connectivity here and there. And so people must understand the reality. The reality is, for the first time, the real votes counted. For the first time, yes, we struggled with Beavers upload, but that is a simple network issue that how many people have gone to dot and were altered. More than 70% or 75% so far have to check their result, and the result in their polling unit is the same to the result that is uploaded. Now, that's the way. When you focus too much on the sentiment, you can never drive your country forward. According to deceptive hallucination, Nigeria needs to move forward. The president-elect is there. Okay, he's resting, whatever he's doing. The question is, he is not allowed by law to get involved in the issue of governance until he's elected, until after the inauguration. Right. So the man is not going to do anything now. But God is already putting together his cabinet. He's already doing the work. You see, Wale having meeting with the transition. How many of them are aware, Seun, that their transition committee ongoing as we speak, and that they are meeting every week, deciding on what to be done, sharing ideas, looking at handover notes, and so on and so forth. So Nigerians must first learn. Seun, how many of them will listen to your program when you talk about the beavers, when you spoke about the beavers? I watched a full session of you. When you took time to explain, one of your guests explained that, look, the beavers is not an it must go. So Nigerians must learn. Sentiment will not work. The elections have come and gone. Asiwaju has won. The cases, those who are challenging the case are in court. Let Nigeria move forward and focus on governance. I am a farmer. My interest right now is how do Asiwaju make it easier for Nigerian farmers? I am the one driving the Agbado evolution. The interest is, it is time for maize to become the centerpiece of our development. It is time for soya beans to become the centerpiece of our development.
So you are
an Agbado man. To become the centerpiece of our development. Yes, I'm the Agbado man. I'm the one they call the Agbado man. You know me. So it's time to drive that narrative.
You are a combat.
You say, yes, I'm a combatant. Now, to people, sorry, so let us be very clear on something. And let me put the facts on the table. Just last year, records are important. 1.3 billion metric ton of maize, right, was cultivated across the world, accounting for $400 billion worth water production and economy. Nigeria accounted for 12.5 million tons of maize, right? Now imagine if we are able to get the over 50 million arable hectares of farmland, cultivate enough, about, let's say, move from the 12.5 million tons to over 30, 40 million tons, other Siwaju 1.0. What that will mean, is that you will increase the capacity of your country to become more productive, you will increase the productive level and also end revenue. You also reduce the unemployment level in the market. Instead of you to talk about this, all they spoke about was Agbado. He said Agbado and cassava. Are they aware that Agbado and cassava is the foundation of every industrial development? Are they aware that agrarian revolution is the foundation of how the world grew, of how most economies develop? Are they aware that if we get agriculture right, Nigeria can reduce the unemployment level and actually become the most productive economy in Africa? How is China doing it? How did Thailand do it? How did even the United Kingdom do it? So let us begin to focus on the issues. The issue is Nigeria needs to get Agbado and cassava right. You need to get yellow gold right. You need to get white gold, which is dairy.
All right.
If Australia, I'm concluding. All right. If Australia is doing $6.3 billion from dairy, why should we not be talking about dairy? And so let's forget about what is all this sentiment. Sentiment will not help anybody. Let's forget to face the facts. And the fact is, election are come and gone. We have a nation to govern. We have a nation to lead. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Redson, the combatant and the Agbado man. Let me get the final thoughts and closing thought of my speakers in the studio. Let me begin with you, FS Yusuf. The path untraveled, that is what Bola Tinubu would tread on. The path untraveled is what the court will decide who do not know. The path untraveled are the burden of economic security issues that the next anybody who leads this country going forward will have to fix. These are the path untraveled. What are your final thoughts based on all of these issues?
So I think for my candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, he has a competent petition that he has placed before the court, and he's doing the right thing, because at the end of an electoral process, when you feel that the outcome is not right, when you feel that the process is not right, the best thing you could do is to take a redress at the court, and which is what he is doing, which is what the Constitution wants. And when people are also not satisfied with the result, is because they believe that the person of Mr. Tinubu is not competent enough to drive our economy, is not competent enough to tackle security challenges, is not competent enough to tackle the everyday challenges that Nigerians are facing. So this is why they are not comfortable with having him as the president. And secondly, because they believe that the process was not right. The process of making him president was not really followed. So they have the right to say, hey, we are not accepting this, so let's seek regress in court, which is what the people are doing. That is why you see that instead of maybe the situation of what happened in 2011, I was in Zaria, I was almost killed when Buhari didn't win the election.
Violence.
Yes, because of the post-election violence. But what we are seeing today is entirely different. Everybody is seated back, following what Peter Obi is doing. Everybody have their eyes on the judiciary, ensuring that the right thing is being done, and whatever the judiciary wants to come up with, Nigerians will accept and will move on.
Tosin, are you an Agbado man too, or a combatant too?
All Agbado people.
No. You and your friends are the Agbado, right?
All Agbado.
Your closing thought, Tosin.
Yes, I think we have a competent team leading our case at the tribunal headed by Chief Olola Dipekun. We are sure of victory because we have a good case. We won a free and fair election, the best in the history of this country, and we must commend INEC for the election done so far and today's rerun all over the country. And I think moving forward as a nation, we have a country to build. We have a country that we're all responsible to. We have no other country than Nigeria. My appeal to all the young people and the old to come together and work for the success of Nigeria, for the success of the new coming government. Ashura is a tested administrator. It's a man that knows his onions. It's a team builder. It's an excellent talent hunter. is a politician. So it's many things in one. And in terms of the state of our economy, I believe strongly that it's going to improve on where Muhammad Buhari stopped. You can see one of the economists, one of the economic persons in the transition team, Chief Wale Edun, will play a major role in terms of our economy and so on. So I believe strongly that he has a team that will work for our country. Nigeria should believe in its leadership. Nigeria should believe in its government. People are celebrating daily. Join us at the Unity Fountain as we count down for May 29. Every day is a jolly day at Unity Fountain. So my brother, the obedient, please join us at Unity Fountain tomorrow or Monday. Find time to join us.
Would you be celebration, Agbado too?
Well, there's nothing that is not there. Agbado is there, iftar is there, drink is there, everything is there.
Let me bring
so we're celebrating across the
Don't
country.
worry,
Everything is fine. No. See, the court is over, my brother.
No, it's
if everything is over, we have a country to build. Let's leave the past and move on.
It's a process in building the country, so let's follow the due process.
All right, let's bring Inibe. Your closing thoughts, please.
Well, for me, it was fascinating to listen to that brother who was telling us how the farmers will make more money that, on account of plantation of corn, cassava, gari,
Agbado.
But on a more serious note, we had thought that the plan was to recruit 50 million youths into the army. But since maize is really at the forefront of the Tinubu presidency, we will see how much corn will be planted.
Inibe has been converted.
More seriously speaking, INEC has a lot of work to do.
Inibe,
the processes must be
Inibe, Tosin said you have been converted, have you?
I don't have corn in my pocket.
Don't worry, we'll give you some corn. We'll give you corn. We'll give you corn. We'll give you some corn.
So
it's an Agbado time.
I'm hoping that INEC would have an opportunity to redeem itself, and that Tinubu will, until the court decides otherwise, be sensitive to the yearnings and aspirations of the people. I do not find it palatable that what is supposed to be, Tinubu's a president-elect, time is now being dissipated and spent in a foreign land. I had read that he had been moved to the defense house, which shows that the state apparatus is already being deployed in his favor, having been declared by INEC. So I don't understand why Asiwaju is outside the country. He should speak to Nigerians. This contemptible way of treating citizens, talking to foreign journalists, ignoring the Nigerian journalists, going to Chatham House to talk, but not really addressing Nigerians on issues that affect the citizens. That has to change. Let us hope that the courts, finally, that the judiciary will decide the matter on the basis of substantial justice and not on the basis of technicality. And we hope that the process, the electoral litigation process, will be credible, will be transparent, and that at the end of the day, that the country will be better off. And I hope that those who are saying that people complaining are not patriotic, the government should never define patriotism, right? Government does not define patriotism. It is the citizens that give legitimacy to the government. So that is what I hope that will become the fate of our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What an amazing evening. Because look, this is what I love. When I hear Nigerians, and a lot of people differ, and we're able to speak to it, and we're able to bring up the issues. For example, Mr. Reno Amokri, a former presidential aide, a member of the PDP, says, let the law take its course. Human rights lawyer Inibe F. Young, he believes that INEC fundamentally departed from its constitutional mandate as far as the 2023 election is concerned. A member of the Labour Party, FS Yusuf, he holds the view that the 2023 election is not credible. Mr. Tosin Adeyanju, a member of the APC, disagrees with him. He says the president-elect won a free and fair election and will not disappoint Nigerians. These responses underscore the multiplicity of views and how strongly people feel about their political stance. This is the beauty of democracy. And here is my summation, everyone. Beyond partisan politics, everyone here speaks to the effect that a better system is possible and will be beneficial not only to a few, but a greater number of people of our country, and that is a common denominator across the divide. And as we continue to build a better nation, the sense of nationhood is a right attitude, a major building block. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this podcast today. Until I see you next time, God bless you. God bless Nigeria, and see you next time, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Sheon Okimbaloy. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind.